Yeah. I'm here. I'm ready to go. We got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm thinking about all these local teams that we have in, which is every single one of them. And the Islanders and the Islander fans got what they wanted because they're not going to face Boston now in the first round. Not that Carolina is some slouch, but Boston's got the best record in the history of the league.
Yeah.
I mean, they're breaking records, so you don't want to have to face them in the first round. So that is now settled. We know officially it is Rangers Devils, which for some people they really like. For others, they don't feel like this is a great they don't want to see each other, at least in the first round, but it should be a tremendous series. We know about Knicks Cavs. We know about the Nets and the Sixers. So, who is going to be standing after all this? Because it would be a real shame if the only local team standing after this first round is the one that has to come out of Rangers Devils. Now, if you look at the odds of everything, and you go by what Vegas is saying, that's exactly what's going to happen. The Knicks are underdogs. The Nets are huge underdogs. The Islanders are underdogs. And then you got the Rangers and the Devils playing one another. I mean, and how much would that suck? Like, we get all fired up, and then we only get one team moving on. Now, the best chance, I think, of one of these other teams moving on is going to be the Knicks.
Yep.
And they are an underdog, and let's just get the numbers here on FanDuel Sportsbook. So the Cavs are minus 205, the Knicks are plus 172. I actually thought it would be a little closer than that. So for comparison, the Nets are plus 660 to win the series, and the Sixers are minus 1,000. So for people who don't understand, you have to put up $1,000 to win 100 to bet the Philadelphia 76ers. But I thought it would still be a little more even matched, but there's no doubt that the Cleveland Cavaliers have had a better season. They are, on paper, a better team. And I would have loved to see what those odds would look like if there was a 100% healthy Julius Randle, which we don't know we're going to get.
You know what's funny was Jared Allen was asked about Randle possibly not playing in game one, and he had no idea that he hadn't been playing and that he was injured and that was even a question mark.
Really?
So, yeah, and he took it as, you know what, that shows that we're locked in on what we need to do. We're not worried about them. Okay, fair enough. But I did think it was odd that 2 days before you're going to play them, you weren't sure that Julius Randle may or may not play. That having been said, I agree with you. I think the best opportunity here is the Knicks. I think the Knicks have every chance to win this series. You know, I don't look at the Cavaliers as that much better than them at all. I mean, they're a couple of games better, sure. Maybe they have the best player on the floor in Donovan Mitchell. But Jalen Brunson, to me, has been so much better than I ever thought he would be. And you can make the case that he has been the best Knick all season long. I know Randall's had the numbers, but Brunson has been the difference maker. I think with or without Randall, I do think they have a chance because the game's different. I clearly give Cleveland the edge. But I think the Knicks have every opportunity to win this series, and I don't know what they would do beyond that. But out of the group of teams we have in the postseason, taking the Devils and Rangers out of it for the moment, I don't even think it's close. It's the Knicks by a long shot to have the best opportunity to move on.
It's probably Knicks, Islanders, Nets.
Agreed.
In that order. And the Islanders probably closer to the Knicks than the Nets. Now listen to the great Pat Boyle driving in. Pat Boyle's got the Nets beating the Sixers.
Yeah, and he does not like the Nets, and that actually surprised me a great deal. I remember when probably 4 or 5 weeks ago when he was signing off the air, he was mocking them as basically saying, they're not even going to make the postseason. We're going to we'll laugh at their expense, blah, blah, but they've played well. They've played really well, actually. I don't see it, though, in this series. I love his optimism. I just don't know how you stop Joel Embiid from this standpoint. You know, when you had Shaq on the floor, you could foul him and put him to the line 20 times. Maybe he'd make 12 of them. Joel Embiid shoots free throws, a lot of them, and he makes most of them. So I love Nick Claxton to death, but I don't know what you do in terms of stopping and slowing down Joel Embiid. And then if you do, you've got so many guys on the outside for the Sixers. To me, it's a very difficult matchup for the Nets, but from his mouth to God's ears, if there is such a thing, I'm hoping for a couple of games to put a little bit of fear into the Sixers.
Yeah,
that's what
sure.
I'm hoping for.
I mean, really, and you don't want to see this happen, but really what you need to win this series is a compromised Joel Embiid, whether he gets hurt or is out for a couple of games or just is not playing 100%, and then putting the series in the hands for the Sixers, James Harden, who always is horrendous in the postseason.
Well, I'll tell you this, so I remember doing this back when it first happened, when Kyrie and Durant and the Nets went into Philly after the trade. It's probably, if you want to go watch one of the best basketball games that they played together with the Nets, it was that game in Philadelphia, because you got You got baseline to baseline defense. Their offense was aggressive. It was on point, and it's probably the best 48 minutes I saw the Nets play in the last couple of years during that mess of an experiment. If you get a defensive effort like that against Harden, who was clearly frustrated that night by Kyrie, and I think, whether it's, Finney-Smith, whether it's Bridges, like they got guys that can do it, at least in my opinion, they can. If you can get him off his game and live with what Embiid does, maybe you've got a chance in these games.
So what do you think the acceptable minimum for these fan bases is? I'll throw a couple at you and see if you agree. So if the Knicks lose to the Cavaliers, and no matter how they lose to the Cavaliers, meaning that it's they're out, they get swept, or they go into double overtime in Game 7 and lose, I think that's going to really sting, and I think that the Knicks fan base is going to be very disappointed because that means that Donovan Mitchell is moving on, and he probably was a huge part of that series. So
yeah, you don't think that makes a difference, though?
What talking about?
The way you lose?
Yeah, it does, but I think... Of course it does, but in this situation, the Knicks not getting out of the first round it'll feel like they didn't really progress all that much. And the fact that the Donovan Mitchell factor is huge, man. I'm telling you, if the Cavaliers just let's take Donovan Mitchell out and put another star in there that the Knicks have never really had a shot at. Like, I don't know, Luka Doncic. Let's just do that for the time being. We never really had a shot at Luka Doncic. But Knicks and Donovan Mitchell were linked for months and months and months.
Thought it was done, actually, at one point.
Yeah, so like in that situation, if Luka Doncic takes over and wins the series and you go to 7 games in double overtime, you're like, okay, fine. But because it's Donovan Mitchell and you were this close to getting it done, there were reports out there that essentially that it was going to happen, and it never did. I think that losing to that particular team and that player is going to sting a lot. Now, there's going to be positives going forward, but I think you have to get out of the first round for the fan base to really be happy with what's going on. The Nets, I mean, they're going to have disappointment, period, because this was supposed to be a championship run with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and having another shot. You didn't, but I mean, if they win a couple of games with this group and Mikal Bridges looks like he is continuing to be that budding star, I think you're happy with that.
I agree. I think it's a complete success because all expectations changed when those two were traded away. Well, I shouldn't say both of them. Once Durant was traded, to me, the expectations completely changed. Now you bring in a much more youthful group, a group that you're looking to build with for the future. It's not about winning a championship now. Now it's about, can we win some games? Can we win a round? Can we get better? And then you're looking towards next year and the year beyond that. So it's a much different feel for the Nets. I think the Nets could go out and lose in 6 games, and you would feel great about them going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So those are those two. And then if you go to hockey, to me, the Islanders, even though they just snuck in, the way that things shook out at the end, this was a team that went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, then missed the playoffs last year, then fired their coach, which stunned the fan base, and it came back this year, barely made it in, lost their star player and Matt Barzal. If they get wiped off the mat in this series, even though they are a prohibitive underdog in the series, I mean, that's going to sting. That's going to suck. This team, and also you're like, oh, hot goaltender, great goaltender. Sorokin could take over the series and blah, blah, blah. So if they get smacked around by the Hurricanes, even though the Hurricanes had a much better regular season, I don't think that's going to be good enough for the Islanders and their fans, quite frankly, because then what is the future? You got a lot of older guys on this team. You hope that Horvat and Barzal can play together next year and maybe, take that step forward, but you cannot get wiped out. I mean, you changed the coach and you went all in on the best player at the trade deadline. You just can't get smacked around by the Hurricanes.
To me, this is the type of team I wouldn't want to play. Yeah. I actually think the Islanders, we talked about this too, I could see them losing quickly. I could also see them making a deep run into the playoffs, into the Stanley Cup playoffs, because they're a veteran group. They got a lot of guys there that have performed at a very high level. It's been a weird year for them because their expectations were through the roof. It was basically go win the Stanley Cup this year, and they barely make the playoffs. But we've seen this before when a team gets in that's capable, and they are capable. I could see them making a serious run here. I could also see them losing in the first round in 5 games.
Well, they need Barzal back, and I have no idea what the status is because everything is cloak and dagger with the NHL injuries. You have no idea when these guys are coming back. You get drips and drabs of information. You don't even know exactly what the injury is. He's skating here, this and that. I mean, you just don't know. You have no idea when he's coming back. As for Julius Randle, I mean, you have a better idea what's going to happen with him.
But he'll be there Saturday night.
You think he's playing?
I do. I think it's going to be one of those things. I know what Tom Thibodeau said the other day about he's practicing, no contact. Does he really need, as long as he gets his conditioning up and he's getting his shots up, does he really need to be banging around on the floor in practice to be ready to play? Right. So to me, if he is healthy, 100% healthy, and he's got the conditioning up, go play Saturday night.
Yeah, I think this is rolling the dice, but let's say he's 75% or less, and he feels like he can play. I kind of want to see how game one shakes out before I throw him out there.
Oh, I agree with that. I said if he's 100% healthy.
Yeah,
if
100%,
he's at 75%, 60%, whatever number you want to put on him, I wouldn't let him play. Then I would hold him out an extra couple, especially with the extra 2 days you've got.
Yeah.
You play Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'd hold him out till Tuesday, but I wouldn't be stunned if we're sitting there at whatever, 6:30 on Saturday night and Julius Randle's on the floor.
And then for the Devils and the Rangers, the loser of that series, I think the Rangers more so because the Devils are very young and the expectations for this team weren't as great when the regular season started, but of course they changed throughout the regular season, how good they are. I mean, that's going to be a disaster for the losing team. It just is. And that's what
it's disappointing for sure, yes.
But, I mean, that's the problem with these two teams with the great seasons that they had meeting in this first round is you feel like one of them is going to get robbed of potentially a deep postseason run, and they deserve better. But if the Rangers lose to the Devils after going out and getting Tarasenko and Patrick Kane and all of the talk about this team after last year, going toe-to-toe with the Tampa Bay Lightning and then getting knocked out and being one series away from the Stanley Cup final, and that is an all-time team, the Lightning. We have talked about it plenty of times. They eliminated the Islanders twice in a row as well. But if they come back and lose in the first round this year after going all in to the Devils, I mean, that's as bad as it gets.
Yeah, and it's two teams, as you say, that are good enough to make a run to the Stanley Cup Finals, and one is not going to make it. It's funny because Jack Hughes' brother scores the game winner last night. They were down, I think they were down 4-1, and they come back and win in overtime, the Devils did. And Jack Hughes' brother, of course, has the game winner. And then there's this video of them in the locker room afterwards where, Jack is basically praising his brother, and they go to, embrace. When I tell you, Jay, he looks like a child.
Oh, yeah.
I know he's 19. I get it.
Right.
But he looks like a 12-year-old. And you're like, man, this is the kid. And he's supposed to be better than his brother, which is unbelievable. But those two on the ice, and I would think Jack Hughes has just been spectacular all season long. And I have not been able to watch as many games. Like in the past, I would probably watch 50 to 60 games. This year, maybe half that. I just haven't had the time because of everything going on in life. But when I do get to watch them, the speed, and Boomer's talked about this a million times, they're just fast. They're fun to watch. And you know what they haven't done this year? They haven't had many losing streaks. And by losing streaks, I don't mean 7 in a row. I mean, they had the 1 6-game losing streak. But for the most part, them losing 3 in a row was rare. So they've had the ability to bounce back, which is why in a best-of-7 series, I love their chances here. And I think youth might prevail.
Yeah, and I also think the fact that they're so young that they don't really know
what they don't know.
Yeah, like a lot of these guys, it's not like the current Rangers and the current Devils are thinking back to the 1994 Eastern Conference Final. They're not thinking about that.
Most of them weren't born.
Right, or understanding the history. I totally understand that, but I'm talking about just from the standpoint of, guys, you could talk about the experience that certain guys have, like Patrick Kane has, and the Rangers who were here last year that went deep into the playoffs. But there's also something about we're going to go out there. It doesn't really mean much to us. Like the pressure's on them. We had a great season, but really the pressure's on the Rangers.
My concern would be, as a pro Devil guy here, my concern would be the goaltending.
Yeah.
Vanacek has been, he's been great all season long. But this is a different deal now. Shesterkin has kind of been there and done it a little bit. That would be my one concern, especially in a sport where the goalie can play such a huge part in winning game by game, series by series. That's where I think the Rangers do have the advantage.
And personally for you want two things to happen desperately.
Yeah.
And if both of them happen
in the same round,
it's going to be pure Recco for you. Just pure. So that is the Knicks getting eliminated.
Yeah.
And the Devils beating the Rangers.
Right.
Now, if the Nets somehow won, that would be extra cherry on top.
That would be ridiculous.
But if you can get a Knicks elimination and a Rangers elimination back-to-back, and at the hands of the Devils, no less, and at the hands of Donovan Mitchell, the guy they should have had, I mean, that you may, rent out a VFW hall and have a party, right?
Because of the way he has treated me?
Yeah.
And no other reason. That's it. I mean,
Right.
2012, I didn't say a word to him. I was there when the Devils won that game. I didn't say 2 words to him.
Yep.
Nor would I. But he's been ruthless this year.
Yeah.
So if it happens, he's got to come in.
It's personal.
Jerry sucks. Yes, I understand. Thank you very much.
This is personal.
It is personal.
Yeah.
And it's his fault, not mine.
No, I know. Listen, I am not arguing with you. And if he were here, I would be saying it's absolutely his fault as well. There's no doubt about it.
And I sat here all summer last year, too. A lot of those weeks with Sal when you guys were off, and we argued about it, and me and Sal did. I said, you got to do whatever you've got to do to go get Donovan Mitchell. He's a game changer for a team that's getting better and better and better. And so if they did lose at the hands of Mitchell, I was right.
Yep.
And then we can shove it right in his face.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.